The following is intended only for mature audiences.
Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's Jmann. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm Jmann.
And I'm number one fan Tim.
Timmy! There was an article I saw the other day. Here is that article. It states that 4 skiers killed in Utah bring the U.S. avalanche death toll to 21 this season.
Well, that's why you don't ski on an actual mountain.
Here's the thing about avalanches and mountains and skiing and shit. I don't think man was intended to strap narrow strips of wood to his feet and glide across the earth at lightning speed.
A good argument to be made there. Kind of like strapping those same sticks to your feet and gliding across the water. Yeah,
that we weren't intended. If we were supposed to walk on water, I would have been born with a much different lineage. A non-existent one, basically. But yeah, you see what I'm saying? You look at people in the Olympics that do all these different ski sports. Slalom, downhill, high jump. The most decorated American skier, I believe, is Lindsey Vonn. It might be Bodie Miller. Here's the point. How many times has she fucking crashed and fucked her knees up?
Well, what did she do in the Olympics? Is she the slalom? Or?
She's like a downhill skier. And she's wiped out and she's torn her ACLs. She's fucked her knees, both of them up, so many times. She's had such disgusting wipeouts that she's probably got the fucking knees of a 60-year-old. And she is 36. Medals in alpine skiing.
Got a picture?
Yeah, hang on. 2018 Winter Olympics alpine skiing. 2010 alpine skiing as well. So let's just go to a picture of Lindsey Vonn, who is a fucking smoke show. I'm surprised you don't know who she is. She's very comely.
Right there, isn't that her? No.
Yeah. Here's her from the Body issue of ESPN, where they post naked sports celebrities.
Not the best angle.
No, that's okay. It looks like she's taking a shit.
Yeah.
Either way. This reminds me of a story of my former boss at the jail, Thunderbeak. His son was snowboarding.
Uh-huh.
And wiped out, and then somebody else crashed into him with their board.
Oh.
Right into his fucking hip.
Ow.
Now, he was, I think, in his late teens or early 20s when that happened. He's got all kinds of hardware in that hip, and he had fucking rehabilitation for that shit.
Oh, man.
And I know tons of people that have snowboarded, and if you're good at what you do and you have balance, odds are you're not going to get injured. But again, I don't think that we were intended to strap pieces of wood or polycarbonate materials to our feet and glide down hills and mountains on the earth like that.
I guess, yeah, some people would say we weren't intended to, but, we adapted and conquered.
What's next? You're going to give somebody a pair of bionic wings with some sort of propulsion system, and they're going to jump off of a cliff and flap a few times and then crash to a fiery death and go, yeah, but he flew.
You seen that water jetpack that they got going on now?
That thing is stupid. It's just a super soaker strapped to each one of your feet that shoots water to propel you into the air.
Yeah.
And you can't necessarily control it so great.
Yeah, so do you think we were intended to do that?
No, and I don't think we should be doing that either.
At least with that, it's a soft landing.
Is it? Because if you're 30 feet in the air and you crash into the water, it's like the impact of jumping off a fucking bridge onto the highway.
Well, try not to flatten yourself out. Try to,
Yes, because I'm sure that if somebody's wiping out on one of those hydro jetpacks on the fucking water, they're going to have time to choreograph a gymnastic-style landing and not incur any injury whatsoever.
Have you ever seen those videos of the tubes that, I think they call it the flying tube or whatever, that you pull behind a boat? Those things could get crazy high, 30, 40 feet, and people have been paralyzed because of those.
Why do you do this shit?
That's my question.
Is the thrill of flight that great that you'll risk permanent paralysis where your dick and arms don't work? or your vagina and your arms don't work. You're basically dead from the neck down, blown into a straw to steer your wheelchair away from running over other people at fucking Costco who gave you a job, air quotes, checking receipts by the door because they felt bad for you and they have hiring quotas for people with disabilities.
Oh! Wow.
Yeah.
I think the original intention was only to go a couple of feet.
Whee! Look at me! Ah, fuck, my legs don't work now.
Yeah, I think the original intention was to only go a couple of feet up, but I mean, when you're tubing on water, you're only supposed to be going, I think the tubes all say like 20 miles an hour tops. And I mean, obviously everybody's going faster than that. I think I max out my boat when I'm pulling the kids on their tube at 22. I will not go above 22. Yeah. You know, but I'm usually humming around, honestly, the 19 to 20 area because waves, boat wakes from other boats and stuff, and even on a tube like that, it's just a regular, like almost like a kidney shape. No, not kidney. Not quite a triangle because the edges are all rounded. But, you know, it's a two-man tube and all that. I mean, you hit a boat wake the wrong way and that could end up hurting you.
So just think about what I said about skiing, and I've Googled common skiing injuries. And the first thing that came up before I hit injuries was most common skiing knee injuries.
I think ankles.
Snapped ankles, torn ACLs. I mean, you got to really fuck yourself up by hitting a tree to break a femur. But brain damage from hitting a rock or a tree. Look what happened to fucking Sonny Bono.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. And then we took a ski trip, I think, in 7th grade. 6th or 7th grade at school. And I don't know what happened, but some girl, and this is both tragic and humorous in its irony, she was from Bolivia. Her family had moved here from Bolivia.
Mm-hmm.
You know, down in the lesser Americas.
Yeah. I know where Bolivia is.
She broke her fucking leg.
Ouch.
We were there for like 15 minutes, and she already had a broken leg.
Jesus.
So then
she'd never skied before, I'm guessing?
I don't know, but she ended up on crutches for like 3 months.
Was she on the bunny hill?
I don't know. You
didn't see it?
It doesn't matter what hill you're on.
Oh, dude, I gotta tell you about the...
Bunny Hill or Double Black Diamond. We are not meant to do that shit. If you can pull it off, good for you. But if you get really fucking hurt, I would walk up to your hospital bed and then I would throw dead flowers on your chest and laugh at you for your stupidity because your arrogance in mocking gravity and the laws of nature. We don't need to put sticks on our feet and shoot down a mountain. I don't care how fucking fun it is or how great Bodie made it look in fucking Point Break.
So I'm guessing you never really liked skiing.
I did it in that same trip where she broke her leg. I had a fucking blast. But guess what?
Yeah, I went like 5 or 6 times. I loved it.
I almost wiped out a bunch of times my first trip down one of the regular hills. I'm like, oh shit, because I didn't know what I was doing.
I wiped out one time. It was actually kind of funny.
I was on the Bunny Hill training and I couldn't stop and somebody fell down in front of me. And I asked them if they could move. I'm like, move. They couldn't. They just laid there. They turned a little.
Probably unconscious.
My skis went into their back.
Ooh.
And
Why couldn't you turn?
Because I wasn't good at skiing. It was my first fucking time on there.
The snowplow? You just put left weight on your left foot and it pushes you to the right?
No, it's not snowplow. It's pizza, French fries. Pizza, French fries.
No, snowplow, parallel. Snowplow, parallel.
No, South Park.
Boy, they really dumbed it down for you, didn't
French
they?
fries and pizza, South Park. Anyways, I hit this person. I did a fucking flip and landed flat on my back. I went ass over apple cart and went, boy, I look stupid.
So you like somersaulted through the air.
Yeah, I fucking caught flight. And guess what? I wasn't thrilled. I wasn't a bird.
Do you remember my buddy Tommy?
Yeah, you're going to tell me that skiing was how his face got that fucked up?
No, his face was like that all the time. But
That's
we were skiing and we were on a beginner's hill, blue. Okay, the blue circle. And I watched it happen only because I had fell after going over a little jump and I was trying to get back up. He came barreling down that hill. Some girl fell in front of him. He hit her, and I shit you not, he cartwheeled twice. Like, arms and legs out. His skis went flying. He cartwheeled twice and then landed on his side and just laid there for a few seconds.
What a fucking putz.
God, that was hilarious.
I bet it was.
She ended up with a sprained ankle.
Nice.
In fact, every time we went skiing at the school field trip, which was twice, each time at least one student came back with a messed up ankle. But I had gone skiing with my uncle, my dad, my brother, you know, family, probably another 3 times. and I always had a blast.
Yeah.
But I always skied within what I knew my skills were. My brother, despite his size, because he's a little bit bigger, he was phenomenal skiing.
Was he? He had a master of his center of gravity?
He could take jumps and like fucking back scratcher and shit like that. He could. I wouldn't have believed it if he just told me, but I saw him doing it.
Wow.
I was just like, holy shit.
Now I wish I could have seen it. And don't get me wrong, I love movies like Ski Patrol 2.
Ski Patrol was great. I never saw Ski Patrol 2.
What's that movie with John Cusack and Booger from Revenge of the Nerds with the skiing on the mountain and what the fuck is that called? Better Off Dead.
That was kind of a spoof movie because isn't there a scene in that movie when he's at dinner at his girlfriend's house and his food crawls off his plate?
I don't remember that part.
I remember that part.
Those are entertaining, and so is the South Park parody of Better Off Dead. But again, we weren't intended to do this, and frankly, the overarching point of this episode is that people that get injured and die these ways, they don't deserve sympathy. Like my boss's kid, for example, again, was a very good snowboarder, but he fell down, and somebody crashed into him, and he got very, very hurt. I would say they were pretty much life-altering injuries because he was a hockey player. He was a defenseman. And guess what? He's not a hockey player much anymore. Not at a competitive level. Or just like ice fishing. You're like, the lakes are frozen. It's safe. My friend Aaron is 6'7". He fell down an ice fishing hole.
They're only that big.
He fell into it. And then tripped.
Like one leg?
Yeah, and then he broke his femur about 2 or 3 inches away from his fucking hip socket, and he sent me a picture of his hip. Because I'm like, remind me how many pins you got in that bitch. It's bionic almost.
Wow.
He has like a partial hip replacement with all the... There's 2 rods, pins, screws, all kinds of shit.
So my cousin got really lucky because we were on a lake ice fishing with his dad. Well, I was just out there playing on the ice, and he stepped into an old fishing hole, but it wasn't fresh. Like there must have been like an inch of ice on it, but his foot went through it, and he went up to his knee in the water, and he pulled his leg out, and he's just like, "Oh my god!" And it was cold, so it started like freezing.
Yeah.
So him and I had to walk back to the house and get him a change of stuff.
Well, back to the story that inspired me to have all these angry, hilarious thoughts about skiing. An avalanche, 4 skiers died. If you're not on a mountain, odds are you're not going to die in an avalanche. Now, if you live in a town that's at the base of a mountain and there's avalanches all the time, you fucking move because that's dangerous shit. But you're putting yourself in harm's way. It's just like anybody that's ever climbed a mountain for fun and, snowy peaks and shit, and there's an avalanche. Sounds fun. And they fucking get crushed to death in an avalanche. Like, there is this mystery of this old...
People that get in an avalanche and they're, like, buried in snow alive, they need to watch that episode of MacGyver where he got buried in an avalanche.
So there was a story about a week prior about the Kolat-Syakhl, northern Ural mountain of Russia. People died from an avalanche. And they're like, we never really got to solve the story of this. And what they said is, they weren't sure if these people got injured in the avalanche or if they were running from their attackers. Like if something was going wrong. Because these people had all types of weird fucking injuries. But they weren't found near their campsite. And what they've ultimately come to the conclusion of is that an avalanche happened during the night while they were in their tents at their camp. They didn't have time to get out of the tent, so it threw their body on the edge of the tent, ripped the tent to shreds, strewn their bodies all over, so they got all busted up. 6 people were very badly injured and 3 more died from physical trauma. But that shit doesn't happen if you don't go up on a mountain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
Imagine being paralyzed in a water skiing accident, and you're a pro, so you don't wear a fucking life jacket while you're doing it, and suddenly your arms and legs aren't helping you flap and nobody knows where your body is because you're sinking under the water.
Yeah.
So now you're a cripple and you're drowning. I don't know if there's many deaths that are worse than that. You're like, I know how to swim. Fuck, my appendages aren't responding. Fuck, I'm sinking. But then it's underwater, so it's like, plonk, 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 plonk. It's like when the music starts going, dun, 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 when Sonic's under the water.
Oh,
and you gotta find that air bubble. Yeah, it's like that, but you don't find the air bubble.
Yeah, it happened to me a lot when I played that
You're
game.
losing all your rings in that scenario. Forever.
You know, it's funny. I was actually watching a video the other day. You know the wakeboarding boats that they have now? The boat has a low draft, a deep draft, so it can create a nice wake so that people can like wakeboard behind it or surf, quote unquote. I've actually watched a lot of people doing that on a couple of lakes around, and I want to say only half of them are actually wearing a life jacket, which is kind of stupid. I mean, I won't go tubing without a life jacket. I won't go on a jet ski without a life jacket. I won't even go on my four-wheeler without a helmet.
So, yeah, I mean, when I read statistics on avalanche deaths or skiing accidents or all that shit, I'm not surprised, and you'll get no sympathy for me, because you should not be doing that shit and thinking that anybody should feel bad for you because you got hurt, basically cheating death or trying to defy gravity or the laws of nature.
See, and I'm all for skiing on a hill and water skiing. Just don't do it on a fucking mountain, and don't water ski over 25 miles an hour.
I'm all for chicks that like skiing in movie theaters.
Skiing in movie theaters?
Do you not know what skiing is?
I know what skiing is.
It's basically a chick is sitting in the middle of two dudes, and then she's got a dick in each hand.
Oh my god. Okay, that I didn't know. Jesus.
Yeah, see, you
what kind of movies
something.
did you go to? Did that ever happen to you?
No, but I'm not averse to it either. Because as long as the other guy and I don't like look and make eye contact, unless we go, huh?
Don't make eye contact, yeah.
Good for you. Look at that. Well, good thing it's dark. Interact with the show on Twitter at What Do We Call It? That is at What Do We Call It? You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/What Do We Call It podcast show. For the What Do We Call It podcast, I'm Jmann.
And I'm number one fan, Tim.
And SEN.